G'day, I'm Debbie O'Shea and this is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Turrbal people. I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. They were the first music makers on this land. Welcome to this episode of the Crescendo Music Education Podcast. This is part one of my chat with Joel Copeland, who lives in Canberra, the ACT here in Australia. He has so much to offer. I think if you don't know Joel, by the end of this episode and next week's part two, you're going to just love him as much as me because he's just such a lovely person. Fabulous music educator, and he works quite a bit in the leadership field now. So it's great to have him influencing more educators and having more power and influence within systems. So I'm so grateful for that. So Joel, keep going. It's just good to have you there. So in this episode, we're going to hear quite a bit about his journey to becoming a lead teacher, and how he sees the importance of teachers helping other teachers. He obviously is very passionate about our profession. It's so lovely to listen to. It will fill your soul with gladness. You'll be happy that you're a teacher after listening to Joel. So enjoy part one. And welcome to the Crescendo Music Education Podcast. And today I am joined by Joel Copeland. Hello, Joel.
Hey, Debbie, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. You're looking really well, so I'm assuming you're doing well.
Absolutely, yes. We're very close to the end of the term, so not sure when this will go to air for your listeners, but no, I'm feeling ready for a break, but energized after a great term.
Yes, and you're coming to me from Canberra.
I am from beautiful Canberra, Ngunnawal country down here. It's gorgeous, nice and chilly, but the sun's trying to peek through at the moment. I'm optimistic, but it is a beautiful place down here.
It does get really cold in Canberra. I will admit that.
It does.
So what I'm going to start by just reading just a really small snippet of a bio about you in a minute, but it was lovely because I caught up with you briefly at the HALT Summit in Canberra earlier this year, and I loved you got to have a little speech to all of these HAT and lead teachers from across Australia. That was lovely. You spoke very eloquently, and it was a good little promotion of music too, I might say. It was good.
Whenever we can.
Yeah, we do. We've got to sneak it in, haven't we?
That's it.
So here is just a little intro about you. Joel Copeland is a distinguished music educator and leader, currently the principal of the ACT Instrumental Music Program. He served as national president of Kodály Australia and has led music programs across diverse educational settings. In 2021, Joel achieved national accreditation as a lead teacher, a milestone that has shaped his leadership journey. Now, I'm sure there is so much else that could be in your bio, but what would you like to add to that little snapshot of your work?
Oh, do you know what? That's again, thank you. I'm really, really grateful for the invitation to come and have a chat with you, Debbie. And thank you for the work you do. It is truly incredible, and we need more of it. But you're doing amazing stuff. So thank you. It's interesting you asked that because recently I was working with a group of teachers, and we did this sort of the standard, let's go around the circle and everyone introduce themselves and what school do you work at and what's your position and what year levels do you teach. And I had a bit of a moment as we were coming right around the circle about identity and how often in these spaces we can jump quickly to where we work, what positions we've held, all of those sorts of things. And for me, it was a really reflective moment around, well, actually, I like to introduce myself a bit differently these days. And whilst, work is an incredibly important part of my life, it doesn't define who I am. So the only thing I would add is that for me, my own personal, I guess, journey is shaped around, being really committed to bringing joy to people's lives and uplifting others. I am a proud dad to three little humans, really proud husband, son, brother as well, and very fortunate to be privileged to live the life that we do here in Australia as well. So, but obviously, been really fortunate in my professional capacities to have some great opportunities to work with incredible people, wonderful young humans as well, and also just that privilege of working in the educational leadership space as well, and being able to amplify that impact, I think, is something that I'm really grateful for as well. So yeah, that's kind of me.
That is wonderful, and I love how you bring us back to what's actually really important. And, if you had to choose between your family and your career, there's no choice, is there?
No, it depends what time of the day you ask me that question. But yeah, no, that's it. Work is, it's really important, and to be fortunate enough to find that vocation, that calling, many people don't. So I'm really conscious of how fortunate I am to be in a space to work in a job that I love. But yeah, that's it. You go home at the end of the day when you do, and that's the reason we live is for our people and our loved ones.
Yes, and you are right. We are so lucky that we love our work and what we do. I have some people very close to me who really don't know what they want to do, and it's very difficult, whereas I know what I want to do and I'm powering towards it. And you're
Absolutely.
very similar, very similar. Looking back, what has been a real highlight of your journey as a music educator?
Yeah, this was a tough question, I have to say, because so many moments, I guess, when you're working with young people, and particularly with the transformative power of education, and then add music on top of that and the arts, it's just so many moments that. But the one I will share was a real turning point for me in my journey. I'd come 4 years through my Bachelor of Music Education degree, and I'd done some prac placements out in a variety of different schools and settings. And I'd arrived on my final internship, 4th year, was spending a whole term at this school in Canberra at Radford College. And I came in full of energy, ready to go, really excited. And I wasn't wholly met with great enthusiasm from the person who was supposed to be looking after me for that time. In fact, actually, I do recall them asking me, "Are you sure you're not a drama teacher?" I think that had some not wonderfully positive experiences with their sort of previous prac students in music. So anyway, I arrived there, and the teacher sort of reluctantly took me for a bit of a tour around the school. And anyway, another teacher there in the department who was the head of co-curriculum music, I think, at the time, incredible human being named Matthew Irving. He felt sorry for me as he saw me being sort of taken around the faculty. And he just took me under his wing and said, "Come on, mate, let's go. We've got Year 5 music, in we hop." And off I went with Matt. And little did I know that was really the turning point for me. It completely changed the trajectory of my career as a teacher. And I'd also say, really inspired me to want to challenge myself in the leadership space as well. So I went into that Year 5 classroom with Matt. And up until that point, I'd been doing secondary music. So, working with Year 7 to 12 students. And so I went into this classroom, and he had students were all sitting in a circle, no books, no tables, no anything. They're all sitting there in a circle, very vulnerably. And I sort of thought I could just hang out at the back of the room and watch what's going on. And he said, no, up you come, and pulled me up a chair. And so I sat in the circle, and he just launched in. There was no time for anything, no mucking around. It was singing, moving, playing. The laughter and the joy in that room was just absolutely outrageous. And I was so out of my comfort zone. I wanted to just shrink into a little ball, and I'd never seen anything like this. Never. The only singing I'd really ever done up until that point in my own music journey or music education was probably Kaysan at the pub at 1 a.m. in a covers band. Like, that was probably the gist. So this incredible master teacher in there, Matt Irving, was he's in there singing Who's That Yonder? He's singing these songs. I just thought, no way, mate, you're not getting me on this repertoire. I just can't do that. But I saw in that moment how incredible it was. We talk about engagement. We talk about students being challenged and pushed and rigorous, classroom activity and experiential learning. There was just so much good stuff going on, but also the connections that this guy was building with those students, that for me was just absolute mastery, in practice. And Matt's gone on to, he's, currently principal at Great Southern Grammar over in Perth, and doing amazing things. But, I remind him every now and again how influential he was for me in my career. And, it was only a couple of weeks until I sort of warmed into it and sort of started to build my skills in that space. And as you said, I've gone on, I guess, since then to really be a champion for Kodály music education in this country. And it just, as I said, it really changed the trajectory of my teaching career. I don't know where I'd be, how I'd be teaching, what sort of an impact I could have had I not been fortunate to meet Matt at that moment. But just grateful that I did. So that was for me. I guess that's probably the one that really stands out.
Wow. So did you major in an instrument in your study?
Yeah, so jazz saxophone was my thing. So I went through University of Canberra and ANU School of Music, and so was in with all the jazz students doing saxophone through that time, and again had some great mentors in that space as well. We were, I guess, lumped in with all the performance students, so there was two of us doing education as well, and we did all those same subjects in the performance degree, but a couple of education subjects on top of that. And the great thing was with that Bachelor of Education in secondary music was that we got to go on placements and pracs throughout the 4 years. So we got a little taster of it, and we built up, and we got a chance to sort of experience life in schools, in classrooms, and just build up that observation to teaching a couple of lessons to teaching a full day. And I think that was a really powerful part of my sort of journey.
Well, I'm very grateful to Matt for helping you to pivot, because I know many of us have benefited from that pivot.
Yes, it's hard sometimes to think about the impact that you've had, and we often go straight to the children in the classroom. But one thing that I certainly love about educational leadership is this, it is a great privilege to work in that space, because your impact can be amplified immensely. You change that one teacher's life, that changes thousands of children that teacher goes on to work with. And then that teacher is building and growing other leaders in that space too. And I know we'll come to it and the journey around HALT accreditation and what that means and looks like. But I think that is a really important part of the ecosystem of our education landscape in this country, that we really, as much as we can shine a light on that and keep those good things happening, the better outcomes for the students across the board.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to digging into that, because I feel the same. It's the mentors that we meet along the way that really shape us as educators. And then, as you say, in our case, thousands of students within the space of a couple of years we can then impact. But before we get on to your deep dive into your lead teacher journey, because I'm just very interested in that. As a HAT myself, You are the level above those people who don't know that. But we'll get into that. First, I just want to talk about gratitude, because I love asking all of my guests, for what are you most grateful in your work or personal life right now, and perhaps some other individuals that have made a big difference to you aside from Matt.
Yeah, it's awesome that you asked this question, Debbie, because you know what it's like working in schools and systems. It can be really, for teachers and school leaders who are so heavily invested in the work they do, and it's all about those young people. And in leadership, it's about the older people as well. It's just this human business, and it can be really draining. So I think being able to practice gratitude and shifting that lens can have a really positive benefit on our lives. So something that my wife and I have been really practicing as much as we can since having children, I would say it's really changed for us. And something definitely in the workspace as well that I try and model and practice with my teams too. So yeah, for me, it's really, I mentioned the privilege of living in this country and living in Canberra. We actually, we live in a tiny little village just outside of Canberra called Sutton. It's about 200 people there, and it's a short drive out of Canberra, but just a really beautiful place to live. So grateful for that, and for my family, my incredible wife, who is so supportive of every crazy endeavor I want to go on, because I don't always think straight immediately about the impacts and the knock-on effects of going, yes, I'll do that. Yes, let's jump into this. So really grateful that she is so supportive of me, and also able to bring me back to earth when sometimes the first thing that comes out of my mouth is yes. So just thinking about that balance is really careful. So really grateful for family and health as well. I think you just you try and do all the right things, sleep well, eat well, exercise. My wife, being a dietitian, is very helpful for all of those things as well. So yeah, just grateful for all of those things. In the workplace, then, as I mentioned, I think being in a position of leadership is a privilege. We're caretakers, custodians of these roles, and other people will step in after we do. But just holding that responsibility for the people, for the students, for the teachers, for our community, for our parents, I take that really seriously. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity, because, being able to have that pressure or that stress, I think it is a privilege and something that I'm certainly grateful for.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. I could do with a dietitian spouse. Okay.
I know a good one. I know you can't have her, but
no, I was going to say, no, she's taken. I can't have
she's
her.
Taken. Okay. She's taken.
Okay, it's time to get into LEAD. Now, for those people who are listening who don't know about the highly accomplished and LEAD teacher accreditation within Australia, if you are within Australia, please find out about them, because I think we should know about them. If you're outside of Australia, it is basically, and Joel, you can correct me, I'm going to try and summarise here off the top of my head.
Go for it, Debbie.
You basically apply for this accreditation through HALT, the Australian governing body, and it is, without understating it, an onerous task to prove that you are operating at either highly accomplished or LEAD level in all of the descriptors. It's quite a big thing to prove that you are a HAT or a LEAD. And in our case in Queensland, we actually do get a pay rise within our system. We don't always get pay rises in other states, but you do get this accreditation. And Joel is one of those rare breed called LEAD teacher. So he's proven he's absolutely at the top. We have less LEAD teachers here in Queensland. And when Deb and I applied, we went, we're just going to go for HAT because there's 3 LEAD teachers in our system. So we don't think we've got much chance. So Joel is a LEAD All right, so we're going to talk about your path to becoming, well, it's not really becoming. I mean, you were obviously a lead teacher, but becoming an official accredited lead teacher. And I want to talk to you about what motivated you and what you learned and how the process has shaped your work. That's basically what I want to dig into a little bit. So I heard you at the HALT Summit and you talked about a little bit about your inspiration. And one of the things you said was that classroom walls weren't the boundary of your impact, or our impact of HALTs. So HALT is, oh, by the way, hat and lead teacher. HALT is the abbreviation. So can you talk to us about when you first realised it and how important that is in that whole HALT ethos?
Yeah, it's an incredibly challenging process, I have to say. But for me, I hadn't really, if I'm brutally honest, I think I got the email that all staff at the school I was at the time got to sort of say, just checking where you're at with your accreditation or who needs to go from proficient to graduate to proficient and whatever. And I actually couldn't remember where I was up to with any of that. So I think I went back to the teacher who was supporting us in that school and said, am I at the stage where I need to do the next one, or am I sort of free to roam? And anyway, I was in the free to roam zone, but she sort of suggested to me, maybe I might like to have a look at the HALT, so the highly accomplished or lead teacher levels. And I did some digging into it. And what I really liked about it was, I guess I'd sort of got to the point in my teaching career as a classroom teacher where I was really looking for, ways in which I could hold up that mirror. So how am I actually going? You sort of start to get comfortable after a while. You maybe shift schools, or you try different, you move into a different type of curriculum or different year levels. And I kind of felt I was sort of getting to a point where I really wanted that mirror held up to my practice. And this just looked like the perfect opportunity to do it. I'm always pretty keen on a challenge as well. And I think this mentor teacher at the time had said that there were no other lead teachers in the school. In fact, actually, there were no other highly accomplished or lead teachers in the school at that time until the next principal turned up, actually. She is a HALT highly accomplished teacher. And so, that was it, I guess. I looked into it and then thought, let's give it a crack. Growing up, and many of your listeners will probably resonate with this as well, but going through the AMEB sort of system where you had that thing to strive towards. I'm going to do my grade 3 on my clarinet this year, and then saxophone next year. I'm going to do grade 4, and play all your scales, and you've got it, and then you turn up and you demonstrate. That was for me, growing up was something I was really driven towards wanting to achieve. So for me, I guess this kind of felt like within the teaching profession, I guess something that you can test yourself against in terms of, the national standards, professional standards for teachers and what they look like at that level. As you mentioned, I think and have spoken about already today is that idea of impact beyond the classroom, and the highly accomplished and lead teacher standards as part of that accreditation, which is a national accreditation, is all about how not only do we as teachers in our classrooms, how do we meet those standards, but how do we support colleagues or guide or lead our colleagues to meet those standards. So that is the real beauty and the challenge in going after this accreditation, because it's quite a tricky thing to do, to flip that lens around. Okay, well, I'm fantastic at doing X, Y, and Z, whatever the descriptor is, but how have I been supporting my colleague to be fantastic at that? So what's the impact? How can I show and demonstrate the impact that I can have in my practice on my colleague? And then how do I know the impact that's then having on the students that my colleagues teachers. So I really, that sort of that process of supporting colleagues really that really resonated with me, and something that I wanted to jump in and challenge myself with. I was fortunate, I guess, that 2020, I think, was the year that I was going to try and knock this all over. And in the ACT, because there's, I can't remember off the top of my head now. I'm sure edit this out of the podcast and put the real answer in later, Debbie, but maybe 37 descriptors all up or something like that across the standards. So it was, thinking about breaking those all down. And in the ACT, we actually do them in modules. So in one term, you'll do the first module, which is just standard 1 and 2, which has 6 descriptors and 7 descriptors or whatever it is, and then you get some feedback on that, and you pass that, then you can go on to 2, and then you do the next couple of descriptors, and then you go on to 3, and you do the last 3. And so I really enjoyed that being broken down, because I know, talking with colleagues who've been through the process before, it used to be, and maybe it still is in some states, but the full whack. You do all of them and you submit it and you pass or you fail. Oh, did you do that?
Mm-hmm. And in fact, they're only just now looking at changing it. And you don't know how you're going. You have to do the entire lot and then go, fingers crossed I did the right thing.
That is really tricky. The ACT model is fantastic, and would definitely advocate for that for other states and jurisdictions, because it gives you an opportunity to get that pulse check, at the end, rather than going the whole way through it, which is a real, it's a lot of work, and a lot of commitment and investment in time and energy, and your colleagues have got to support you in that process too, because you need people who are going to act as referees for you, who are going to proof and guide and support you. So you really are leaning on other people to help you through that process. Now that ACT, being able to do it in sections, fantastic. So I really loved that. So I guess the pandemic hit then in 2020, obviously. So all of, the big, massive international tours and concerts and things we had planned in that year were off the table, and, sort of in and out of lockdowns. And I found myself with a little bit of extra time, because it was the classroom teaching between 8:30 and 3:30 that we were focused on. There were no ensemble rehearsals and those things. So I actually had a bit of time to really sit and think deeply about my practice and how it aligned with those descriptors at that career stage at lead teacher. The other great thing about lead teacher is that you need to have a lead initiative as well. So it has to be something that is sort of whole school wide, that a project that you've jumped into and you've led. And so I really enjoyed that challenge of finding an example of something within my work that I could use to demonstrate, I guess, the skill and practice at that level. I would highly recommend it. I mean, there's a lot of people, and you would know this as well, Debbie, that maybe have the conversation with you about, well, it is a lot of work. What's the benefit of doing it? And, if I'm in this state or I'm at this level, I don't get a pay rise from it. So why would I do it? I actually, as I said, my motivation was twofold. One was a great opportunity to hold up the mirror and reflect on my practice, but also it was a little bit of, well, I knew it was hard to get, so I actually kind of liked that challenge and I went after it. So I think everybody's motivated by different things, but it is, I can hand on heart say, throughout my career, all the professional learning that I've done, it's one of the best things I've done for my practice as a classroom teacher and as an educational leader in that space as well. I think it's super powerful. It is worth every minute of the work and the time you put into it, which is substantial. It's a very rigorous process. And, you could argue that we have thousands and thousands of incredible teachers out there in our schools across Australia who are operating at that highly accomplished and lead level that don't do the accreditation. That's fantastic. I would love to see, as we move forward, we continue to grow and build this network of HALTs in every state. That the overarching vision has to be that we have HALTs in every school who are leading professional learning, that are driving the standards, that are always trying to innovate and looking for new and creative ways to do things, and not necessarily always the ones who go on to formal leadership roles. I think the power is still in the HALTs that we have that are in the classroom, on the ground with the kids and with the teachers each and every day. I think there's incredible power and benefits to the leadership and the types of leadership that those teachers show each and every day. So it's not about a badge or a position. It's about how we support and encourage our colleagues to be the best that we can be as a profession. So yeah, I just thought it was an awesome process. And interestingly, I just got my email about having to renew it now because I'm coming up to 5 years next year. So I don't think it's as daunting as it's maybe previously been. I think it's just a smaller snapshot of ensuring that you're still operating at your practice is still at that level. So then you get renewed for another 5 years.
I've just finished renewal, so I must have got my hat 1 year before you got lead. And it's
Yes.
the states are all different, but it's nowhere near. But it took over a year to a year and a half of solid work to do my application. But I just want to double back on a couple of things that you said. I could not agree more about it being a mirror, about self-reflection. It's in fact, that's its beauty as far as I'm concerned. It's a self-reflection tool. And I know going through the process, there were areas in my practice that I wouldn't have examined closely if I didn't have to meet all of those descriptors. So for example, if we go to the 1.4 and 2.4, I still remember the Indigenous ones. So the Indigenous students, teaching Indigenous students and teaching about or embedding Indigenous perspectives in the curriculum. I always think I've always done something. I've not ignored it. But I tell you what, being really honest with myself, was I doing enough? And the answer was no, I certainly was not. So I think, just as a little example from myself, it's made me much more aware now of what I do in that sort of space. So as a mirror, as you put it, it's an incredibly valuable process because my work has always been in quite specific areas, such as music pedagogy, repertoire, and I think we get quite good in our little silo, but we need to reflect on a larger scale sometimes.
Yeah, and Debbie, it's the whole picture of what a teacher looks at, and that's what those descriptors are so great at, and why this process is so powerful. Because I've got probably 10 examples of what you've just mentioned then as well, where I got to a descriptor and thought, yes, I should be doing that. And I'm probably not doing it as well as I thought I might have been. And, without going through the process, you may still arrive at some of those reflective moments, but it's just an intentional opportunity for you to look at that and then go, well, what evidence do I have to support my practice in that level, in that descriptor, in that area, to this standard? So yeah, 100%. It's just the things we do really well, and you'll absolutely see them and you'll get celebrated for them. And the things that you can then identify, really areas I need to shift the dial on in terms of my practice in this space. How can I do it? Think critically around it, and how do I capture the impact of that on my colleagues and the students? Yeah, that's why it's so great.
Yeah, I agree. And I also believe that the whole process was set up to keep the good practicing classroom teachers in the classroom, a way to reward good classroom practice without promoting people out of the classroom.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it was set up for. It's certainly the way I see it. So it's to reward people who want to still keep working with kids, but help impact, make impact from where we are, help our colleagues from the ground,
Absolutely.
Grassroots. Yeah. So I think we're on the same. So were there any specific challenges that come to mind when you think about the process?
Apart from finding the time to do it, although I have mentioned it was during the pandemic, so
COVID, yep.
I had a solve for that. Yeah, I mean, there was some trying to, knowing that you're sort of doing these things when you're looking at the descriptors is one thing, but having really great artifacts that prove that you do it is the next thing. So not only do you need to be, operating at that sort of level in the classroom and in your practice more holistically, but you then need to get pretty nifty at being able to locate and curate the portfolio so that those bits of evidence are really, really clear. And I've sort of since gone on to train as an assessor. So now I assess highly accomplished and lead teacher portfolios, which is awesome as well, by the way, and would encourage people to jump into that too, because I get to see great practice all the time, by looking at these portfolios and meeting these people and going on site visits. So that's really great. So yeah, it's just it's just a great opportunity to be able to jump in and do those things. So challenges, I got a bit frustrated at the start because you really got to you just got to practice. How do I write an annotation so it's really clear and I utilize those little words that they allow you to write to accompany that artifact, which demonstrates my practice at that level. And then how do I show the impact on my colleague and the impact then on my colleague's children?
Yep.
That demonstrates that I have, yes, achieved that descriptor at this level. That's probably part of the challenge, but you get better at it. You go to information sessions, and I rode solo on mine. I couldn't find anybody to jump on board with me, a colleague, but would definitely recommend if there's a couple of you in a school, do it together. Sit down, grab a coffee, a glass of wine, whatever it is, and talk through your ideas. Well, what sort of evidence do you have that you could demonstrate this with? Oh, great, because I led this excursion, or I rewrote this program, or we did a full review of that pastoral care policy, and that has, that'll work really well here. And trying to link them together, so one artifact could tick a box for that descriptor, and it could also tick a box for that descriptor. So it's trying to get creative around how you actually evidence all of these things.
Yes. Oh, I think actually that probably is the hardest thing, to get your head around what even is good evidence, and the number of things that I know I discarded as I was finding out, going, oh, well, that's really just a testimonial, isn't it? That's not evidence. How many things do you have to discard? Because you go, all right, this teacher might be emailing me saying how great this event was, or how much they appreciate my work, but it's not evidence. And I agree, it's so hard to get your head around that. And yes, make the most of your limited words and your limited number of artifacts. So yeah, again, that's skills in itself. I didn't know you were an assessor. That's interesting to know.
It's fun.
Oh, now you've sort of shifted into leadership. So do you work, just to be clear myself, because I'm in a different state, you work just with the teachers now, or do you still teach children?
So the role I'm in at the moment, the program that we run is called the ACT Instrumental Music Program, and we've got responsibility, I guess, for a particular program, an instrumental program that is run across almost every one of the 60 ACT public primary schools. We also run some high school band programs as well. We run a series of extension ensembles and some broader arts collaborative sort of multidisciplinary events that happen throughout the year, as well as supporting schools, I guess, just more broadly and generally with music and arts education. So the role I'm in at the moment, it's more of a systems leadership role, which has been a great challenge. And my own, yes, no, I don't have any classes, so I don't teach children in that formal sense anymore. I do work with we're based at a school, so we're here at UC High School in Kayleen, and so I do get to work on a Friday morning with the high school band here, which is good fun. And I also conduct two of the choirs that we run through our program, which are they're auditioned choirs from the students across all the ACT public schools. So it's sort of a primary-based choir and a secondary choir as well. That our wonderful colleague Catherine Finlayson here in the ACT, she started those choirs many years ago. So it was a real privilege to be able to come into this program, and want to acknowledge my predecessor Nada Blackley as well, who led this program for a very long period of time with just incredible gusto and passion. And so all of those incredible people done great things here in the program. And so that's my contact every week with children, is that sort of 3 hours of choir rehearsals on a Monday afternoon, which I love. It's great. Yes, but I miss the classroom.
Yeah, that was my next question. It's wonderful that you're in charge of and get to shape this program, and a lot of teachers. So, in your leadership role, you get to start those ripples that go out through the teachers to all the children. But I was just wondering if you missed actually working with the children.
I do. I miss the challenge. Working with the choirs is great. The kids love it. They're here because they want to be here, and they love singing, and that's just, warms my heart. But I miss the challenge of classroom, the pedagogy, the sequence, the planning, the growth. That I really loved that. So even in the leadership roles I've had previously in schools, I've always, either had a 7 and 8 and 9, 10, or a senior music class that, I could go in and they challenge me every day. They challenge your musicianship, they challenge your patience, all of those things. You got to think deeply about it. You can't just step into a classroom. Well, I mean, there's many people who could try. Yeah. And I can't remember who it was that gave me the advice around the 3-step lesson plan, which was the 3 steps before you walked in the door. But I'd like to debunk that myth. I think you could probably do it if you're a jazz musician and improv's your thing. But I think teaching practice and children are so unique, diverse, and as we know, just incredibly beautiful and special in their own ways, that to be an effective teacher, to have real impact, you've got to really put some thought and some care into just the planning, short term, long term. So short answer is yes, I do miss the classroom.
Yes, and it's not a waste, but I'm just thinking of all of those skills that you've got that you could apply to the classroom, but you're not wasting them because you're helping the other teachers. Do you find, I don't know about your system there, but are your instrumental teachers able to apply for HAT and LEAD certification in your system?
Yeah, so the team that we've got here, so we set up like a school. So we have school leaders, and the teachers that work in our program, the instrumental music program, are fully trained, qualified classroom teachers. So they've either trained as music secondary teachers, or they've trained as primary teachers, and then they've gone into music with a music background. One way or another, they've ended up here in our program. And so they are, formally trained and qualified teachers. So absolutely. And I've actually got one teacher within our team at the moment that is I've sort of convinced to have a crack at the highly accomplished. So he's sort of just going through that process at the moment. And it's brilliant because I think sometimes there can be a bit of a myth around our staff going into the school to run these bands, and it's a nice sort of fun opportunity for the kids, and they go in there to learn their instruments the way they go. We know it's much deeper than that. We know that the learning, the planning, the teaching, everything that goes into it is, it's through the same lens as a classroom teacher would walk into a classroom music session, or a primary generalist teacher would go into a literacy lesson, whatever it might be. That's the same lens that our team take into the classroom there. So it's a really great mix of that experience Many of them have got experience out in schools, bring it into this team, and how we look at what it is that we deliver in our teaching and learning programs and how we can have the greatest impact on the kids at the end of the day. So yes, I've got one at the moment who's giving it a crack.
That is fabulous. Oh, I love it. And I think the more, and that's one of the reasons why Deb and I went through the HALT process, because we've got to prove that this is for music teachers too, because, I'm going to overgeneralize here, but like there's teachers, then under that, music teachers, under that again, instrumental. People have a bit of a generalization that we're not real. We're not real teachers. We just sing songs. You just have fun. Okay, if it's that easy, would you like to come and do it? And then,
well, Debbie, go on.
Yeah,
it's interesting that that comment there, because I think ultimately great school leadership, in my eyes, from the people I've seen it do it really well in schools, it's about culture, and it's about every adult, be them a teacher, school support staff, LSOs, whatever, a sports coach, a music tutor, any adult or person who is working with those young people in the programs that are being run at that school. It's building a culture where everybody matters, that what we're striving for is excellence, and excellence might look like that kid tied their shoelaces and got to school. Like that might be excellence for that kid on that day, because everything's going on. Whereas for another kid, it might be in a music context that kid has gone and done their AMUS in year 7, whatever it might be. So I think it's building that culture based on values, respect, integrity, inclusion, all of those wonderful things that schools stick up there on their logos. You've got to live them, and it's got to, if you've got staff rooms where people have that sort of mindset, it's trying to break free of that and creating a culture where everybody's respected, and regardless of what subject you're teaching or what year level you teach, or whether you've got the extension class or you've got the beginners, it doesn't matter. Everybody's got an important role to play in the development of those young people and shaping the culture in that school. And going back to the highly accomplished lead teachers, I think they do that brilliantly. And teachers that support culture, I think they're the ones that make the greatest impact.
Yes. And you do know I was not saying that was my opinion, but
I know.
But I do love hearing that from you. And I think that's anyone in a leadership role or anyone in any role should have that. Every single person is important. Heavens, we do that for the children we teach. They're all important and they're all respected. Why isn't that done for every staff member? And sometimes it is, the good leaders do, but just not all the time. So what do you think? I'd like to just finish up on the HALT thing before we just move on to our nuggets of fabulous. What do you think the future needs from us now? Like from us as HALTs, from us as music educators, and from us as school leaders? Where do you think we should be putting our focus and energies?
Well, that's a big question. I think everybody, we talked about leadership. I think it's at every level. So teachers show leadership each and every day in their classrooms. You've then got, other layers of school leaders on top of that, right through to school principals and boards. I think ultimately it's about shaping culture. It's about creating learning communities where every student feels safe, where students want to come to school. That's a huge thing. We're seeing more and more of this school refusal. Not every school is for every student. We know that, but keeping that, one thing I've really learned working in the public schools in ACT is just this systems leadership and thinking more broadly about the child. And I think we can do that a lot better potentially in independent schools as well, supporting students and families if that school is just not the best fit for them, supporting them to find that school that will really work for them. But working with the children, working with the families, bringing everyone together on board to create a positive learning experience for that child. I think the workforce is really critical as well. We keep hearing teacher shortage. That's going to continue to translate up to all levels with school leadership and principal and boards, etc. So I think hold the line. We have a wonderful profession. We should be, really proud to be working in schools with young people. I think it's an absolute privilege. So just continuing to advocate for the beauty that is being a teacher, getting new teachers in, retaining teachers, working really hard around supporting teachers in the wellbeing space. So equally, like we do with the young people, making sure the teachers are feeling, that there's an environment there for them to strive to be the best selves, that they've got opportunities to grow and to learn as well, and to be contributing positively to a culture that is ultimately going to be a really great pace for everyone, for the students, the staff, and the families to be a part of that. I think people are searching more and more for a sense of community, and I think schools have always done that really well, and we need to not shy away from that. Singing, if I come back to singing, it'll never leave me. But in terms of building a school culture, there is nothing more beautiful than having an assembly with 1,500 students in a school hall and one teacher with the skills and the confidence to get up in front of that group and get them singing. I just think it is the most powerful thing that we can do. So you keep an eye on me. We'll keep fighting the good fight, and I just think staying open-minded to that holistic and broad education, but for championing the things that we know are just wonderful and beautiful for our students, our learning communities, which, we're on this music education podcast. I'm going to say is music education.
Yes, in solidarity, brother. I love it. Okay. I would like to move to your nuggets of fabulous. I know some people who listen to this podcast who live for the nuggets of fabulous. So here we go.
No pressure.
No pressure, Joel. No pressure. So these are Joel's nuggets of fabulous. So it could be a piece of advice, a little gem, anything to pass on to the music educators that are listening today.
Look, I'd probably say don't wait. Don't wait for things to happen to you as a teacher in the classroom. Like, go after them. So if you see a gap or you see an opportunity, just go for it. Don't let no budget or not enough time stop you from doing things. No budget, find the money. Keep your advocacy going. Step into that space. Look for grants. Be resourceful. If there's no funding, go out and try and find a philanthropist who's going to support you. Be creative. As musicians, music educators, I think teachers are so creative just naturally. Music educators then even more so, right? That's our space. So we've got to think creatively around how we can control the things within our control. Look to the positives, practice gratitude, but support each other as well. I think it can be isolating sometimes, as potentially as a lone music teacher in that school. So just be open-minded, reach out to other colleagues in the school to look at your practice. How can you get better? How could you shape things? What ideas do you have? Because I got knocked back with that proposal, right? Just get up and I think that resilience that musicians, I think inherently we develop that skill as we go through learning musical instruments and training to become musicians. I think we get very good at becoming resilient. So you're going to get knocked back. You're going to have a great idea. It doesn't mean that the principal or your head of faculty or whoever it might be is going to tick it off and get you to go for it. But go back, revise it, come again with another slant to how you can make it work, and show those school leaders that, you're not going, this is a great idea, I need this money, let's do it. Come up with some creative ways how that you can work holistically with the school to link in with other projects, or that you understand the broader strategic priorities of the school so that you can show what we're going after this as a school, right? That is a priority for us, inclusion. So here's a new program, or here's an augmentation of a program that we can really tick that box, and it's through music and it does this, and this. And I reckon if we're creative with it, staffing wise or budget wise, we could do it like this, write a really great proposal, put it forward, but don't wait for things to happen. Go after them, be proactive, be resilient, and just be proud of the work that you do and show that impact, because all of those buzzwords we talk about in education, engagement, inclusivity, all of these wonderful things, they happen each and every day in our music classrooms, right? So be proud of that, but be able to step up and demonstrate how you do that. And advocacy is obviously a huge part of that.
I love it. You're speaking to my soul. I love it. So you're talking about, I love that. Don't wait. If you want to do something, do it. Just go for it. And supporting each other, really important. Go with the situation's priorities. I think there's a superpower in that. And just as a little aside, when Deb and I got together, Sing started, we made sure there was a big element of singing together for well-being. And every year we've managed to get a grant from Queensland Mental Health Week.
Yep.
Like if this was just we're singing together, Queensland Mental Health Week wouldn't be giving us money to pay the composer, would they?
No, you speak their language. Speak their language.
So hook on to their priorities. It's a small tweak because it's stuff that we do anyway, but it gives your ideas and your projects, you just get over the line quicker, don't you?
Yeah, that's it.
Hooking into their priorities. And I love that feeling proud and showing all of the great things that you do. They are wonderful nuggets. Thank you. And which actually leads us straight into advocacy. So you're talking about how we have to show people what we do. How? Sometimes it's tricky, the how. Like big events, we put things out there. But do you have any other ideas of how we could advocate?
Yeah, I think data is important. So speaking the language, like who is your audience? If you're speaking to the principal and then obviously through to the board, well, just telling lovely stories might not cut it. So how can you show that data around impact? And that goes back to that highly accomplished and lead stuff. How can you demonstrate the impact that you're having? What things are you measuring? So what are the great things that are happening in your classroom that you want to be able to demonstrate and show? How do you capture those things? But I also think I just knocked it a second ago, but don't underestimate the power of a story, because being able to tell a story and show that journey of growth for the young people is really, really powerful. People connect in with story, that tracking engagement, just that transformation, I think is really powerful. Parents want to choose schools where their kids can go to, or they want to see from their schools how their student is growing, developing into a human being that's going to be able to function in this world. And so I think being able to tell those stories, really important. So don't underestimate that. There's great Dr. Anita Collins. She's doing great work in this space, and I just would say sign up for her courses, because they're just phenomenal in being able to just give you the language, the toolkit to be able to really get up and champion at every level. And it's not. I know I mentioned this word earlier, and I take it back. I mentioned the word fight. It's not a fight, because we're actually all in the same. We're on the same team. It's just different people have got different priorities at different leadership levels, right? So we just need to hold the line, and advocate that is the word. We want to advocate and champion for our areas, and we want to do it in a way that is holistic. Like, understand what else is happening in the school, because if we lock ourselves away into our little department or area, you go with a big proposal that you think is going to be fantastic. Yet if you'd had a conversation with the head of science or some of the other classroom teachers who are doing a unit of inquiry on X, you might have reshaped how you actually went after that. So be open-minded, be across the strategic priorities of the school, and then use that to inform your direction in your work in the classroom or your program and how you want to build and grow.
Yes. Oh, wonderful advice. I love it, because stories are powerful. We all get involved in narratives. Use that data. And Anita Collins, fabulous. Bigger, Better Brains. I can also thoroughly recommend the course. Being a Bigger, Better Brains educator myself. lots of help there. And I love you keep coming back to, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Joel, but through our whole conversation, you keep coming back to a holistic view. It's a holistic view of the child, of the system, of the people. And if we keep track of that too within our advocacy, and also interesting you mentioned the word fight, and that we shouldn't say, except it feels like it. There are times, honestly, it feels, well, there are times it can physically become at least a verbal fight. So I guess as much as we can to try and change our thoughts and our language into advocating for what we do rather than fighting. But gee, it feels like a fight sometimes, I just want to say.
Sometimes it can.
But they're great hints. Thank you. We're getting to the close. I have just loved talking to you, Joel. It's been wonderful.
Likewise, Debbie. If we could just schedule this in every week, that'd be fantastic. Just to lift my spirits.
It lifts my soul too. So I hope everybody listening, I hope you've gone, oh, that was so great. I'm so glad that I have sort of virtually met Joel now, because we all need a bit of Joel in our lives.
Come down to Canberra, and happy to physically meet you as well.
That'll be great. Actually, no, I was only there a little while ago. I won't be there for a bit.
One trip a year, Debbie. That's probably enough.
That's right. But this invitation's open to thousands of listeners. Okay, maybe not. Now, before we go, I like to have a soapbox moment. You get to get on your soapbox. Actually, before you do, if anybody wants to contact you, what would be the easiest way? They might think, gee, I'd like to find out a bit more about the instrumental program there or the HALT journey. What's the best place to find you? On LinkedIn, or where do you hang out?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me. Just Joel Copeland. You'll track me down. ACT Instrumental Music Program. You'll find our website online as well, which has got some information about our program and the great things that are happening here. But happy for anyone to reach out via LinkedIn, and we can exchange emails, and we'd love to connect with anybody. Any conversations anytime about music education, arts education, or just education in general, or leadership, would love to chat.
Wonderful. And now we're going to finish with some extra wise words while Joel gets on his soapbox.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been on my soapbox for the last little bit. I don't think people need to hear any more from me, but all I would say is, we're coming to the end of the term now. I'm not sure when this will be released, but I think just being kind to ourselves, like teaching is, I would say before having children, I would say teaching was the hardest job in the world. It now comes a close second to being a parent, very close second. I think. Yep. Yeah, being a parent is the toughest job in the world. And, it has given me more empathy for, the parents that I work with and that we work with out in our schools as well. So I think, everything we do, we just need to go at it with kindness. Our parents are coming from a place of care for their child. They don't have the whole picture. They don't have all of that information. So just being kind, I think we need more of that in the world. But I think for teachers, really my message would just be, the work you do matters. It is so critical and so important, and you don't get the instant sort of gratification from it, each and every day, but you'll get those nuggets. And when you do, hold on to them and cherish them. That handwritten note from that kid that says, thank you, you've made a difference in my life. Hold on to that, because for every one that you get, there will be hundreds more that you don't get, and you will never know the impact that you have on these young people. And I know through music and the arts, we get a lot of very vulnerable kids. They're just attracted to music and the programs we run. And if you're doing some great stuff out there, you're building a beautiful culture where those kids feel welcome and they feel accepted and they can be who they want to be in your classroom and your music rehearsal spaces, you will do more than just teach those kids music. You will shape their lives and you'll change the trajectory of their lives. So I just want to shout out to the teachers. I think you're incredible. Thank you for the work you do. Keep doing that work. And that's it from me.
I think that is a wonderful soapbox to finish on. And I just want to thank you, Joel, for spending time with me and all of the other wonderful music educators listening. Thank you for your time.
My absolute pleasure, Debbie, and thank you again for all the incredible work you do.
Bye. As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. Did you know that when farmers party, they turn up the beat? Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education Podcast. For more information about all things Crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe.